Welcome to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. I'm Amra, writer, teacher and storyteller. Pull up a chair and let's dive into stories about writing, life and lessons learned, sharing wisdom from my armchair to yours. You can find the episode show notes, your free episode handouts and my how-to guides at amrapayalich.com/podcast. And now it's time to dive in. Welcome to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. Today I'm interviewing Tania, who is a passionate educator and co-founder of Rakata, Melbourne's vibrant Cuban dance crew. With a teaching career spanning nearly 3 decades, she blends her expertise in education with her love of Cuban salsa and reggaeton. Alongside her partner Jean, she has performed at major Latin dance festivals in Australia and New Zealand. She's trained with renowned Cuban artists both locally and in Cuba. She brings an inclusive high-energy workshops to schools and communities, empowering dancers of all levels. And her mission is to honour Cuban tradition while infusing it with creativity, joy, and a fierce love of dance. So welcome, Tania.
Thank you. What an introduction.
I know. It's always interesting when someone does an introduction, you're like, oh, that's me.
That's me. I sound amazing.
Yeah, because we don't get that very often in life, do we?
No.
We just walk into a classroom and we're like, I am so-and-so, and you
No.
start doing a thing.
No.
Yeah, so having an introduction is like, yes. So your life has been marked by great transition and pivots. When you were 30 years old, you were a mother to 3 young children and you decided to go to a dance class. So how did this decision change your life?
Well, at the time it was the only thing that I was doing for myself, and I thought an hour a week sounded amazing, away from the kids and the husband, and just to do something for myself. It has started a whole new path for me, because from that one dance class I became a performer with that dance crew. I met other dancers and other dance teachers. I then started assisting, and I was already a teacher at that stage, so then I was asked to teach classes. I met my now husband. We've been together for almost 17 years, and we've had dance schools, companies, performance crews, all of it together.
Yeah, and I just love that where you're like a mother and feeling overwhelmed with all of that and just searching for a part of yourself. And you just do this one thing.
Just this one dance class. And I was 30 and I was a mother of 3, and I sort of had the idea that if you were going to be a dancer, any sort of, be any good at it, you had to start when you were 3 and you had to do ballet and classical and then have a lifetime. But I found Cuban salsa, and Cuban salsa is a street dance. It's very heavily into being a cultural dance, not a ballroom dance, and it was all in.
And also I love the fact that you were a teacher, and so you just had that skill where you were able to translate dancing and teaching dancing. So it wasn't very long where you were doing the dance lessons where you were sort of tapped on the shoulder and asked to start doing that.
Yeah, and I think the skills of teaching can be transferred to anything. I wasn't teaching dance. I was an art teacher, a literacy teacher. I think I was still a primary school teacher. Yes, I was. I was still a primary school teacher at that stage. And so I was teaching science and humanities and maths and all sorts of things that weren't really my bag. Mm-hmm. But if you know how to teach, it's about making complex things less abstract, making them simple, one step at a time. And if I knew how to do a dance step, then I could teach someone else how to do it.
Yeah, and then you transitioned from primary school teaching to high school teaching. Yes. And you became a high school dance teacher too.
Yes, and so I didn't have any formal training. I was asked to do a vet training course because I couldn't teach VCE dance, but I could teach vet dance. And that was a really quick course. I think, I can't remember, maybe 12 hours of face-to-face, but it was all about getting what I had done in practice and using those hours up against what I hadn't done in academia. And when I think one of the hours I couldn't attend because I was teaching at the Johnson Street Latin Fiesta, and they were like, well, that'll count as hours.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that was great. And I don't think there was a dance curriculum there at the school. Mm-hmm. I wrote it for 7, 8 and 9. pushed to get it to year 10 for a long time and beyond, but there just wasn't the physical space in the performing arts. There were only 30 periods available, and sharing that with drama meant that we couldn't put another 5 hours of year 10 dance on the grid.
Yeah, I just love how, you're a teacher, but then whatever we have outside of that world, we can also bring in that passion and those connections.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot, even with professional learning. You learn something and you bring it in. You see if it works, you keep it, and if it doesn't work, you let it go. But I think being a teacher, anyone really can learn the skills, but it's about your passion and your interest and how much you want to share.
Yeah, I remember one of the first early years of teaching, and one of my students was like, Miss, you're an expert. And I sort of had this moment where I was like, I'm an expert? I'm an expert in this? And then they were like, yeah, the way that you bring the passion and the way that you talk about it and the way that you... And I was like, oh my gosh, I really am, because, as a professional writer and then as a teacher of English, the way I break it down, and that's the same with you as a dancer and then a dance teacher, the way that you know to break it down, the way that you know to use the terminology to make it accessible, to build the confidence and to sort of focus on trying to get people to enjoy and find it. And even now when I do workshops, I'm just so, people get blown away by the way that I embed grammar in the writing of it, which is fascinating to me because I wasn't taught grammar in school.
Yes.
But through becoming a teacher,
I've
I've really learned how to deconstruct language and how to focus on language and focus on structure. So it's just really interesting, the skills that you learn and the way that,
Definitely.
the way you shift and you change.
And I also think, like I said, I've never been classically trained. I don't have contemporary, I don't have ballet, I don't have any of those. What I have is street, and what I have is Latin and very niche Cuban. And so the dance program wasn't built around genre, it was built around skills. Rhythm is rhythm, balance is balance. And so the kids who I could model, and I think that's something that we do as teachers. And I said to the kids, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I won't do myself. Yes. And so if a kid wanted to show balance through ballet, they could. If they wanted to show it through breakdancing, they could. If they wanted to show it through something a little more interpretive, then that was okay. And so the program was really built around skills and expression.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, you sort of make it that accessible.
Differentiated.
Differentiation. Oh my gosh, we do like a whole episode on that. I have a lot to say on that. So you and your partner Jean have won the 2024 second place professional division Rowetta at Australian Rowetta Championships, the 2015 second place professional division 2015. So you've won a lot of competitions and competed professionally. But what have been the highlights and what are the struggles in being a Cuban dance instructor and choreographer?
Okay, so Latin dancing is very broad. Cuban dancing is niche. And I'm going to try and explain this without talking for hours and hours.
As we can.
As we can. So basically, salsa is what people recognize as Cuban dance. Salsa originated in Cuba. Very basically, it was the meeting of Spanish rhythms and African drums. That's like the very basic way of explaining it, but there's years of history. And it was only called salsa when it moved to the US, because salsa means a sauce. So it was a little mix of things. So I guess one of the struggles is that a lot of people recognize salsa as what they see on Dancing with the Stars, which is a ballroom style. And that was the standardization of what was coming out culturally from this little island, Cuba. And standardization often means bastardization, because what they're keeping is a moment in time, and they say that this move will always be this move, and this is how we say that it's done well. But culture is always evolving. So the way people dance salsa in Cuba in the 50s, and then even in the 2000s, and now in the 2020s, it's changing and evolving. And so I guess one of the things that's difficult is to keep doing this thing that is evolving, to keep paying respects to the ancestors of where this dance has come from. And some people don't like to recognize that, and it means that we can often come across as righteous. And that is not what I want to do, because dance is inclusive. Everyone can dance, everyone is free to dance. I guess the difference is that I like to honour where it's come from and remember where it's come from. And I don't dance ballroom, and I don't dance linear or LA styles. I dance Cuban. And even though that is niche compared to all the other salsa styles, I'm happy to keep that style, and I'm happy to keep that honour to the culture.
What I love when I talk to you about it, you actually talk about the storytelling aspect and the way that it's weaved in the culture, and
yes,
like really embedding what is the meaning of what you are dancing.
Yes,
so
exactly.
What I was always struck by is that dancing is another way of storytelling.
Yes,
like you are actually dancing a story.
Yes, and dance comes from culture. And dance comes from somewhere. It's an expression of the music, an expression of the time, of the people, and so to have this thing where there's a little box around it and a move must always be done this way, like there's a saying that you dance to express, not to impress. And that's not my saying, that's saying that's probably printed on a million t-shirts somewhere. But I think you need to know what you're dancing and why, and then connect to it. So connecting to your body, the way your body moves, the way your partner's moving, the way the music is, what's happening at the party, or if it's on a performance, why are you putting these moves to this part of the music? What does it mean? It's not just about the athleticism of it. So I think dancing can be a sport, and in saying that, we have entered competitions, but we've entered Cuban competitions, and every competition we've entered with a means to win. And we haven't come first, but we've won second. So I'm not really into the sporting aspect of it.
But in one sense, like what I find fascinating is you'll do a day of teaching, then you'll go and dance for 3 hours, but you'll just come back
refreshed.
Yes, and just glowing and just so happy.
And body tired.
Yes.
But body tired is not the same as mentally tired.
No.
And when we were running our dance school in the COVID dark years, people said, why don't you just do classes online, which a lot of people were doing. I couldn't at that point, because being a teacher, 6 hours online already, doing that remote teaching, and then running remote classes, that was stealing the joy out of it. And so we closed our school at that point.
Yeah, the dark times of COVID
right.
teaching. Although having said that, now delivering writing courses, I'm doing it a lot more online. And I'm finding it really great because it's so much more accessible in terms of people from anywhere. And even I just did one in the heart of a Melbourne winter, and I was so thankful because I was like, oh my gosh, the thought of leaving the house, and I don't think anybody would have left the house. So it was, there's been some bonuses in that
and
way.
I guess there's enough time passed now that you're not stuck in that all day online.
And also being a teacher, I know how I have to bring the energy. Like you have to bring the energy if you're doing it in person, you have to bring the energy if you're doing it online.
More probably.
More, yeah, because I finished and I'm like sweaty.
Yeah.
Just completely covered in sweat during the 2-hour workshop that I delivered. Because you really do need to connect, and you need to like bring people in and get them to feel it. Yeah. So yeah, pros and cons. Now we can appreciate those. So as director of Rakata, you are running your own dance studio with Jean, who's your partner in dance and life. What are some lessons that you have learned in running a business?
Okay.
Your business is difficult. You're actually dealing with dance crews and with people and politics, and like, with me as an author, I'm like, I'll just do my thing and then I'll leave. I run workshops and stuff, but it's different. Like you've actually got to work with people.
I think one of the biggest lessons is that we need to recognise our own worth and our own value, especially when we were starting as new kids doing Cuban dance. I have an Italian background. Jean has a Filipino background. We don't look Cuban. People were offering to hire us for no cost. Like they'd say things like the exposure will be great, which I understand at the start. We were taking gigs for not a lot of money, but then we sort of came across people who were doing it for free. So people would say, we can hire you and pay you $100, which is really not much. And we'd say, no, we're worth more than 100. We charge this much. And we didn't want to undercut ourselves.
Yes.
But there were people who were willing to do it for free. And then we were thinking, oh, we're missing out on business. We're missing out on taking connections. We're missing out because people are willing to undercut. And that lesson was in learning, well, if that's how they see their value, that's on them. We don't want to bring our price down because someone can't recognise what we do. And now that we've been doing it for a long time, so I've been dancing for 20 years, Jean may be the same. You mentioned in my bio that we have mentors who are really Cuban masters here in Melbourne, that we've gone and trained in Cuba as well. So coming back to that lesson, we know what we can bring. We know the energy. We know even if it's a 3-minute performance that we're bringing, that's hours of choreographing. Before you get to the choreography, there's hours of listening to music. Then there's things like, how can we qualify this dance class that we did with someone and we took that little bit that we're now putting in this choreography and we paid hundreds to do that. So that's been a big lesson. If the gig is right for us, we also do community gigs for a much lower price. So it's not just always about the money, but how much can we bring and what are we worth in our time? The other thing is that Jean and I are also life partners, not just dance partners. So looking after ourselves and each other has been really important. We've had lots of students who come and go. And of course, because we're only a little bit of their dance journey, but there were times when we were investing so much in the students, on keeping loyal students and making the students feel like family and becoming friends, but then understanding they also have to go and move on. Mm-hmm. So the lesson is, Jean and I are Rakata. We will always look after ourselves and each other. And if it works to have students with us, then great. But there have been times when we haven't, and there's still the two of us and we can make it work.
Mm. I think that journey of learning your worth is such a big thing when you are in the arts, because everyone knows the value of arts and how important they are, and we immerse ourselves so much. We love our TV shows, our podcasts, our movies, our music. This is all art. Writing, all art. We appreciate it. It gives us that sense of worth and life. But when you are the producer, you're constantly fighting that battle.
Yes.
Because we love it.
Yes.
And we just want to do it.
Yes.
But then people want to, almost exploit it.
Yes.
And they want the benefit from it without remuneration. And, I'm sure, I'm wondering if you can relate to this, where it's like, what? I want to write. I'll write for myself. That will make me happy. But if I'm putting it out there, I want to be paid for it.
Yes.
Because we can still do our practice.
For people who have a budget for other things, but not a budget for entertainment,
yes.
How much value are they putting on the entertainment? And I do lots of free things. Like Jean and I will make Instagram reels. We don't get paid. Mm. We're doing that for the joy. We're doing that for connection. We're doing that. It's a really cool song. There's a really cool dance. There's a trend. Let's get on it. Let's have fun. I'm not asking for money for everything I do, but if someone is running an event and they're willing to pay for caterers and they're willing to pay for venue, but they're not willing to pay for entertainment, well, that shows how much value they're putting on it. And yes. If they want to get someone for less, then they're free to get someone for less, and there's no hate on that. Mm. But we know how much we bring.
And I think that's the joy of having done things for a long time and having that sense of where we don't feel FOMO.
No.
We don't need it.
If someone else wants to do it, good on them.
That's right. But we are not going to do it without having that, remuneration. And, you get constantly, like I get people reaching out on, LinkedIn. I had one guy where he's reaching out about writing something, and I'm like, I'm at the point now where I will start that conversation and I will say, what is the remuneration?
Yeah.
Because it takes a long time. I have been tricked. I have had people present things as if they were a professional gig, and then I realised afterwards I'd volunteered, but I hadn't been asked to volunteer. I had actually been manipulated.
Exactly, and it's different.
Yes.
And if someone says, this is a community gig, we're running it for a charity, we're not paying, would you like to offer a dance class, a dance performance, then we have the choice to say, yes, we'd like to support this charity, or no, that's not for us.
Yeah.
And so now when people ask for performances, especially around Christmas time, everyone wants a dance class or dances or something fun. They'll say, this is our budget, and I'll say, for that much you can get an hour dance instructor, but no performance. And they'll say, oh, we'd like a performance of 10 people. We're like, well, they need to be paid too. And so a 10-person performance costs this much.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, maybe we'll just have the instructor then.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, as long as you know what your budget's worth, but if you don't say, then they don't know either. And you're also preparing them for the next time.
Yes. And also, whenever you are offering a freebie or a discount, you make that very, very clear. You put actually on the invoice, or you state 10% discount or whatever you're offering, because that needs to be clear. Because then, if they're going around and telling, oh, we got this great thing for this much money, no, you got the special mates rate, you got the local discount. Someone else won't get that.
And we also do private dance lessons, so we have wedding couples coming through. If we don't know them, we charge, but I've never charged like my niece or my nephew for a dance lesson. Like,
Family.
I want to be there. Yeah, so we choreographed that and you looked awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing. With our friends, it's a different thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, recently you marked a new chapter in your life when you were accepted as a model by Who Agency. Now, I want this story. This is the best story I have heard. Listen to this.
Okay, so I'm into choosing joy at the moment, going for things that I normally wouldn't go for. So on Instagram, as I was scrolling, a photo studio said, new competition, looking for a new model. What do we need in 100 words or less? What should we be looking for? I talked about old women. I talked about diversity. I talked about representation, put my submission in. They got back to me. I didn't win the campaign. Oh, well, how'd it go? But they said, we can bring you in for a photo shoot if you'd like. And I thought, okay, why not? So the photo shoot was 2 hours. They called me beforehand, what do you want to wear? What are you going for? I picked out some outfits. I talked about my outfits for a long time of what I was going to wear. I went in, had a great photo shoot, awesome studio, photographer was amazing, took me to different things, lighting, put your chin up, move your shoulder, all of that styling. Went back for the viewing, which was a little bit confronting. Big screen with all my images up there, what would I like to buy? And in that moment, I thought, these images are amazing. That's me, but they're amazing. The way the photographers know what they're doing, my outfits, but I had hair and styling done, the lighting, the framing, and that's where I sort of understood that we're 3D people, but photography is a 2D art, and there are people who know what they're doing, and there are models who know what they're doing, what shapes, what angles, what faces, what expression are you bringing, what vulnerability are you bringing, what power, what control. And so I bought those images. I also got a few images for free. And then the producer said, here's a list of modelling studios. These ones are for mature age. These are editorial. These are for this, these are for that. Why don't you apply? I went back and talked to girlfriends and said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a model. And then one day I thought, only a few weeks later, I thought, well, if I don't ask, the answer's always no. I'll apply. I applied to one studio, which shall not be named, who didn't even reply. But then I applied to this second with my images and they said, come in for an interview. I went in for an interview, had a great interview. Later that day or maybe the next day, they wrote back and offered me a 12-month contract for commercial modelling and casting. So I accepted.
What I love about that, you've kind of left this out, is you were kind of at home, feeling a bit blah, and then that's when you apply.
Yeah.
So, this is the thing. Sometimes these moments where it's just like impulse.
Yeah.
And just...
impulse.
I just want to fix your microphone.
Yes.
It's just kind of tucked in a little bit. Okay.
I'm very expressive with my
You
hand
went,
movements.
I know all about it. So I just love that also where it's like, and this was just an Instagram competition of which you do many.
Yeah.
And so, I really believe a lot in that where you just put things out into the world and you don't know what will come back.
That's right.
But it's just having those possibilities.
It's the possibilities, and I thought, well, if I didn't apply, my life would be the same.
Yeah.
And if I applied and didn't get it, my life would be the same. I'm not losing anything by applying.
Mm-mm.
But if you apply and you get it, then the world can change.
Well, that's the thing. And now Jean has also...
Yes,
Yeah.
my beautiful darling husband. I think he was just inspired by my story because we sort of have an idea. Well, I, grew up in the 90s and there was Kate Moss and there was Naomi Campbell and there was Claudia Schiffer, and if you didn't look like them, you weren't a model.
Mm.
But now the world has opened up and people of all shapes, sizes, ethnicities, backgrounds, ages want to be in front of the camera, and people want to see that in front of the camera. And so Jean went and had a great time with a photo shoot, because really great images, and then thought, well, I'll apply to the same agency. And so he applied, got an interview, and now has been offered a contract as well.
And the exciting thing is there are a lot of gigs that are being offered where it's looking for couples or
Yes.
pairs. And,
Yes.
and so this is also an opportunity.
Things that we can apply together.
Yeah, so it's sort of opening up more doors. I'm just really excited to see what happens.
Same.
We
We both applied for something that's in the works at the moment, and we both got a call back to do a self-tape. So we both sent auditions in to see what the next stage is.
Yeah.
And if we both get it, great. And if one of us gets it, great. And if we don't get it, oh well.
Well, it's just a possibility.
Yeah.
Now, your life just gets more and more interesting. You had a recent brush with fame as a guest on SBS Insight for their 50th anniversary edition. So again, how did this happen? And what effect has this experience had
So
on
this
your life?
is the same story.
I know, I
It's
love
the
it.
same story. Except it wasn't Instagram, it was Facebook this time. Scroll.
Do you see? Start applying for these things.
So Facebook, SBS is turning 50 this year. Insight, the program on SBS, put out a little thing. SBS is turning 50. Have you turned 50 recently? What's your story? I turned 50 last year. So I put a little bit about my life and mentioned that I'd just been signed to a modelling agency. So weeks later, a producer called me back and said, we're gathering information about Australians turning 50. Yours looked really exciting and different. Tell us about it. So I talked about the same story with the modelling agency. I talked about dancing. I talked about my husband. I talked about my first husband, divorce, my children, menopause. I talked about being a high school teacher. It was a 2-hour chat on the phone, and she said, great, we've gathered lots of information, thanks for your time. And then about a month later, the same producer called me back and said, I've brought your story to the table, we'd like to invite you to be on the show. Which was kind of exciting, and I said, so when was it? When's the filming? And they said, it's during the school holidays and it's at our expense.
Yes.
So I thought it would be silly to say, no, I don't need to take time off work. I don't need to put any money towards this. I've already got time where I'm just hanging around the house anyway. So all expenses paid, which meant flight, accommodation, dinner that night, breakfast the next morning, cab charges. I think in 2 days I spent like $6 on a chai or something. Like, it was all expenses paid, and that was a really great experience. To be in a studio, to understand how TV works. I got to listen to other stories. I met Anthony Mundy, which was really exciting.
He's in the edition.
Yeah. And just to be part of that experience, to see how it all feels. Mm-hmm. I also found out I'm quite an expressive listener.
Yes, because she got so much airtime. So much airtime.
And there's a little bit more
I loved how she's like dabbing gently and crying.
Because my gorgeous talented daughter did my makeup for me, and she said, if you you cry, like I cry all the time at everything, she said, if you cry, don't wipe because it'll ruin the makeup. So I very carefully dabbed away the tears, which made a dramatic moment on the
really
TV
did.
show.
Like they cut to.
So that was great. And then after that, of course, I shared it on all my socials and I was so excited about, this experience that I had. And then the photo studio who started this journey, who took those photos in the first place, saw my Instagram reel, circled back and had an interview with me. They liked my story, which was really their story, and spoke to me about putting a campaign together. I'm not sure whether it's to promote their studio or just a campaign that they'd like to do, but it was really nice to have that conversation with them, and perhaps something will come of it, but maybe not. But like in dancing, like in life, business is always personal. It's about making connections, and maybe you'll use those connections later for something as part of your business or to grow your business. But maybe it's just about making that connection.
Yeah, and I think also just the joy. I think we talk about this a lot because, we're teachers and we love teaching, and the moments in the classroom, they're always different. But in terms of the institution of, school and being in a school, it's very deja vu.
Yes.
And everything's planned a year in advance and all of this. And so for us, and especially at this point in our lives, we're just looking for joy.
Yes.
We're just looking for interesting and new experiences. And also, I think we are braver than we've ever been before.
I think so, because failure is just another step closer to what you're trying to achieve, whatever that success is. So if someone said to you, you have to apply to a job 25 times, but on the 26th you'll get it. You don't see those 25 as failures. You just see it as the next step.
Yeah.
We don't know it's 25. It might be 100. It might be 1,000. It might be 1,000,000. You don't know. But what if it's only 2?
Yeah.
Or what if it's only 6? And so you don't see those as failures. You think, well, I made that connection. I had that opportunity. It wasn't for me, but when it is for me and what is for me will find me.
And I think the other joy is you don't even think about the ones that don't succeed anymore. Like on to the next thing. You don't dwell so much. It's like, oh, well, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
And so then if things happen, they happen. If they don't, you're like, just a lot more flow to you.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Because, after so many years of almost trying, I'm enjoying now where I'm like, I don't feel like I'm trying. I do things. And it sometimes feels like I'm almost not doing things, but I am. I'm actually generating all of this. But it's just like, this is the logical thing. You just go and do this. And then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, whatever happens. And I think now maybe we're reaping those rewards of making all those connections, of doing all that learning, of trialing different things, of experimenting, failing.
Although what is failing?
I don't know. It's just giving it a go when it didn't work.
Yeah.
It's not that deep.
No. And because as teachers, we do this a lot when we have these conversations with students where they're lacking so much in confidence and they're kind of almost paralysed by it.
Yes.
And so we're having to really work through that in terms of the teaching part. And it's just about trying and getting there and, so much of it is muscle memory, and that's the thing with us now at this point where we're just trying things. It's just muscle memory. You just do things.
Just give it a go. Just do it. And I think there's success in repetition.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Like this whole podcast kind of just came to be, and then this interview process. I'm interviewing all of my friends and people I know first, because I need to build that up within myself. So, yeah. Now, what are some pros and cons? Sorry, just to transition.
Yes.
In a sense, we sort of talked about it, like the pros and cons about transitioning into midlife. So I think we've kind of touched on that.
Yeah, definitely. Less fear.
Yeah.
Less worry about what other people think. Less fear of judgment. Not so worried about the perfectionism anymore. I think first create it, then you can clean it up. Mm-hmm. And I think, I do that with choreography, I do that with the classes, but also with learning new things. Like I'm in a position of learning how to do a self-tape, how to do an audition, what it means to be in front of a camera.
You should have heard her technical questions before we sat down.
Where would you like me to sit? Where would you like me to look?
I know, these are things I hadn't thought about. I'm just like, you just sit and you plonk yourself.
I also think midlife brings menopause. Do you want me to talk about that?
Oh, please do. That is the next question on my list.
Question. So menopause, I've thought a lot about this. I've always been very aware of my physical womanhood. And I think in that, we've had conversation about periods and menstrual cycles, and I've had menstrual cycles that have been painful, but I've always seen it as, this is so cliche, a blessing to be a woman.
Only someone with her joyous reproductive system can say this.
And I think, of course, there are lots of horrible things about the way we're treated as women, and that's a whole other conversation. But I sort of saw my menstrual cycle as an opportunity to be rid of what wasn't working that month, an opportunity to rage and scream and cry and physically let go of what wasn't working in the menstrual cycle. And I think that men sort of hold on to that toxicity because they don't have that menstrual cycle where they get to rage and cry and say all the things they've been holding on to. And so menopause has been, well, I kind of think it's a great place to be. I've had the hot flushes, I've had the rage, I've had all, nosebleeds and joint stiffness and
frozen shoulder
and emotions that haven't been in my control, and sadness and anger and indifference and all of that. But I think as women we get to have menopause, we get to be out of that mothering maternal cycle, and I think there's still room to create. But there's something about leaving the maiden and embracing the crone.
Yes, I love that actually.
Yeah, and I don't mean crone like witchy hag, which I kind of like anyway.
I do kind of like.
We get to be smart beasts if we want to.
Yes, and that's the thing. You'd get to the point you just don't care.
But I also think with the crone comes the oracle, the sage, the wise woman, the mentor, and we're not in this veil of estrogen of producing. And once that veil drops, we get to own ourselves a little more. We're not about keeping the family, creating the family, because with that there's always a little bit of self-sacrifice, some compromise.
Yes.
Keeping the unit together.
Putting yourself second.
Not even second, not even on a list, write a list of all the people you love. When do you get to write your name on it?
Yeah.
And I think there's something in, I don't mean being selfish, but I know that there's a little bit of every day if you can make someone's life better, that's great. But what if some days it's your life?
Yes. And that's what I'm enjoying, putting myself first. Actually listening to my voice, listening to what I want. There's a joke in my house. I'm a bit of a narcissist, turning into a bit of a narcissist. And I'm like, yep, love it. I want it.
Yeah, I think we should reclaim a little bit of that. And I think in menopause, that's the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And, it can be little things like, what do you want for dinner tonight? I don't mind, you cook. Or it can be, I really feel like chicken. Like it's such a little shift.
Yes.
And then there are big things. There are women who are divorcing during this time.
Yes.
There are women who are making career changes. Yeah. There are women who are sadly becoming homeless because everything is upside down.
Yeah.
And I think it's about understanding, controlling and directing where it all happens.
Yes.
If you can.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I am on hormone replacement therapy. For me, I had to, because things got really, really bad, and you were front,
I know.
You were front and centre for that. mentor, like, counselling me through on a daily basis, and I was this close to divorce.
But sometimes, you're crazy, right? Sometimes those conversations
just embrace the crazy. But things are better now, and now I can find the joy in it. But there are a lot of women in my position who do need the hormone replacement therapy, who do need the support and the pharmaceutical support in order.
Definitely.
And then there are women like you who don't. And I'm so happy for you. But yeah, it's a very, and there's also a correlation between you always had great things with your reproductive system, easily felt pregnant, the regular cycle, the nice light cycle, and then people like me who had difficulty getting pregnant. My cycle was always, off, very heavy. I think I had endometriosis, so always a lot going on.
And I think that's recognising that I have been very blessed in that area, and I'm aware of where my body is. But it means that you've always also been aware of where your body is and how to manage, control, be aware of that. So it's not about, my cycle's better than yours.
No, but it's also about the fact that you do need to prepare. You do need to sort of think about how has your body dealt with these changes and these transitions. And for me, they were always hard and always brutal.
Yes.
And so, I did seek help. I was very fortunate that at this time there is a recognition of being able to use hormone replacement therapy, that a lot of the stuff that was about it has been debunked completely.
Well, a lot of the studies were old.
They are. And they were actually they are not the hormones that are being used now. So there was a lot of misinformation. A lot of women suffered. So I'm very thankful to be at this time where I'm getting the benefit
and
of
I think it's our generation.
Yes.
We're not a voiceless generation.
No, and we are not accepting it as, because there's so much misogyny in medicine, so we're not accepting it.
No.
We're not going, no, that's fine.
Accept the pain, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's no, we deserve a good quality of life. We deserve a good third act.
Yes.
Because this is the thing, this is the time for the third act, and this is the time to still be fabulous.
Yes.
And to do fabulous things. Thank you.
And you don't have to be a maiden, you can be a crone.
Yes, and to be a fabulous crone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
In the swamp. So just any last words on the power of the arts for well-being and joy?
Well, I think people take them for granted. We talked a little bit about that dark lockdown 2 years. People turned to music, books, film, TV, creating art. Anyone who was on Reels or TikTok at the time was a dancer. And I was like, yes, this is what we should be doing. You don't need a degree to have fun, to choose joy. You can start painting, you can start writing, you can do all that. So it was a light in the dark times, but also when people want to celebrate. Let's go see a movie. I read a really great book. Do you want to do this? Come dancing, pick up an instrument, make music. And we should be celebrating that the arts are here. I think it's what makes us human. I think when you have a little bit of spare time and you don't need to work an extra shift and you don't need to cook a meal and you don't need to, people then turn to, what if I made something? Or what if I went back and picked up the knitting needles? Or what if I... And so I think it would be lovely if AI eventually took all our jobs and we could just play. We could play and the government would look after us and give us shelter and food and all the things we needed.
Well, yeah, there is more. There are some places in the world now where they are offering a living wage because there literally are not enough jobs for people.
Right. So for me, it's fantasy. But I also grew up with Sarah Connor, so I'm a little bit wary of it.
You're wary. I'm actually, I mean, that's the thing also, this time of life and this ability to sort of try things, it's also about play. It's also about just doing things for the fun and for the joy and just almost, it's irrelevant, the result.
Yes.
It's just the actual process.
Yes.
Just trying and having fun and just doing something different and also learning new skills. I'm loving learning new software packages and learning new things.
Me too.
Yeah.
The learning is exciting because it's new. I'm sure it does something amazing to the brain, the learning.
Yeah.
As does dancing.
Yes.
Everyone should be dancing all day, every day. Well, at least starting the day.
Well,
dance in the car.
I do my dancing in my bedroom.
Yes,
when no
good.
one sees.
Great.
I do
And it
dance
doesn't
every
need to
day.
be monetized.
No.
Like art, creating and play should be something we do because we're human.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there is joy in when you do get paid for
Yes.
it. But
if you're good at it.
If you're good at it. Yeah, but it's just also just having that play.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thank you.
Transitioning into interviews, so I will be interviewing different people, interesting people, all about joy, life, midlife, life lessons. And thank you so much, Tania.
Thank you, beautiful friend.
Coming on and for also being so fabulous and so interesting, so that I have so much to talk about. So
thank you so much.
Join us next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow for more insights, stories and inspiration. From my armchair to yours, remember, every story begins with a single word.